there, review family, keep it tight. My name is Jaymores, the review guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video. In this one, I'm going to be doing a catch-up video talking about some of the albums, some of the bigger albums that I missed from this past year. This is only going to be part one. I'm planning on doing a part two near the end of the year, like right at the end when I do the rest of my list, because there's just so many records, and there's probably going to be some from now to then that I miss as well. But some of these were highly suggested and recommended and asked for reviews. Some aren't. Let's get into it. This really is a step up from everything Miss Kristen Hayter had done previously, even if that's not really that much. She really embodies this industrial sound, this classical sound with noisy bits and just harrowing vocals. She also touches on her own experiences being a survivor of domestic violence. So not only do all these songs have the drapery of somberness, but the gargantuan magnitude of these vocals combined with the lyrics really does make this a great album, and I can see why a lot of people like it. One of the most beautifully produced, sweet and gentle to listen to, but intricately made pop albums you're gonna hear this whole year. I got a lot of requests to cover this, I just didn't. Caroline Polachek has really had a great year this year with Pang. I love a lot of her very endearing song topics. Some of her gentler vocals can be very, very powerful, and I also like the electropop influences that she incorporates into her own sound because it really does make her more mainstream tracks sound more dynamic than they necessarily could with a unique flavor. She also takes a lot of notes from the PC music playbook, incorporating and lacing in different production techniques that aren't usually that mainstream in mainstream pop, but she does it in a way that mixes really well with that mainstream pop veneer. This album makes me sad. This right here was an album I was so excited to talk about. God, I was so excited to talk about this album, but it's just not good. It would have been a really negative review, which I'm fine with doing. I do negative reviews, but I just moved on to different records in this case. This album is super long-winded. It is some of the most uninspired doom metal mixed with gothic metal that I have heard period in a while. The production is awful. I do not like how the drums or the guitars are EQ'd, and some of the effects that are just lazily thrown on the vocals just are stupid. They sound rough, rigid, not in a good way, and this sounds like if Type O Negative sucked. I've heard a lot of really good praise for this record, a lot of critical acclaim from friends of mine and people in the groups and the circles that I'm in that have really been enjoying this record, saying it's super, super different for the genre. Maybe I'm just not hearing it. Maybe it's because a lot of people don't really hear that much gent that are praising the record because it has more melodicism and more pop elements, but that's not really enough to make this record super standout to me. I guess the elements could be considered something new, but I don't think this is a standout record, more so just a really alright and well-performed gent album with pop elements thrown into the mix and more gentle sounds. And this all in turn just made me not have much inspiration to talk much about it. Sorry if I just don't get it. You know, this is a lot of people's thrash album of the year, and I can definitely see why. I mean, I remember listening to this album multiple times when it first came out and thinking, do I want to review this? And I just came to the conclusion, nah, I really don't want to review this. Look, Overkill is a classic thrash metal band, a very important thrash metal band, a thrash metal band you should explore the discography for, but at the same time, this is a very drab record in the department of anything engaging, intriguing, or just overall interesting. It sounds really cookie cutter, which is sad, very mosh-friendly riffage, very head-banging riffs if that's what you want, but the undeciding production, the typical thrash metal vocals, as well as some of the literally cringy, eye-roll worthy lyricism on this record just make it something I passed up. King 810 is a band that is part of this string of metalcore bands, this little micro genre that is incorporating nu metal into a metalcore sound and calling it nu metalcore. But I do think that King 810 has more dynamics to their sound than just nu metalcore. The mix on this album sounds very heavy, not to mention I am really enjoying the dark influences, kind of dark jazz influences on this record, not to mention some of those industrial tinged feels on this record, but with that mix, makes everything everything sounds so damn compressed on this record, and I'm not that big of a fan of when metal, especially metalcore, feels the need to compress everything and just squash it to the point to where it sounds so unnecessarily heavy. Overall, though, it's an interesting album from an interesting band that is spearheading this new genre, a genre I'm keeping my eyes on, and a band I'm definitely keeping my eyes on. Whew, took a little break because we've got a lot to get through. New session, let's go. This is an album I was really late to the party of my enjoyment of it. Not that anyone requested it or anything. This has really turned out to be one of my favorite underground albums of the year, and for context, I discovered Deion Reverie through a guest vocal feature he had on another artist that is on this list album. This boasts one of my favorite songs of the year, Hesitation. Deion has this really smooth vocal delivery, and his sound can kind of be described as lo-fi alternative rock with post-rock influence. Very, very impressed by the production on this record. I think it sounds very beautiful and very well orchestrated, very full and organic, which is surprising considering he is a small artist. It really goes to show how so many artists are able to do so much more without the big backing of a corporate entity. And you know, a part of me, the sadist in me, really, really loves knowing that. Really, really loves knowing that. This album has great hooks as well. His hook game is on point. And honestly, I just hope more people hear this album. Oh god, this album. 88 Rising continues to make wavy summertime music with very little in the way of substance. It's like Jaden Smith, but a bunch of Jaden Smiths, and I like a lot of these artists. It's just when you put them together, they make all these really, really vapid, forgettable songs. Don't get me wrong, I like Joji, I like Rich Brian, I like August 08. However, together, this collective just leaves me scratching my head because they're so forgettable from track to track, repeating these formulas, and it's just so glitzy and full of gloss and so glittery, and I feel the same way about the first collection. This is a really good record if you enjoy the NF approach to rap or conscious hip-hop. Dark instrumentation, some vocal features on the hooks, very blunt, raw vocal delivery from a rapper. His lyrics range from everything from the very divided current US political climate to his own personal struggle. My main issue with this record, though, has to be the beats. I think they are very bare bones and do not do him any favors. I think they leave his vocals and his lyrics sounding more understated than they necessarily should be, considering some of these beats are just so minuscule and so nothing. They're so basic. And with his lyrics and vocals, I think that he could do to get some better beats on his tracks, and I think that could kind of take him to the next level. Pretty heavy album. It's heavy. I was gonna review this at the time, but I just didn't get around to it. My main issue with this comes with the mixing of the vocals. The artwork obviously references their first album very directly, and that makes a lot of sense considering this is their first project to feature Johan since their first album, their original vocalist. Props to Candlemass for pioneering epic doom metal, but this record in particular in their discography just leaves me wanting so much more, and with the addition of Johan being brought back, he does a good job, but it leaves their whole sound sounding more dated than it really needed to be. I think a lot of the guitar solos pop out of left field and don't do very much to justify their length a lot of times, or even justify being there a lot of times. The best way I can explain this record is it feels like an album that is there because it is just there rather than needing to be there. I'll give this album one thing. It single-handedly shows why emo-infused alternative rock and hard rock from the 2000s is down in the complete tubes. This album is trash. The production on this is so bad. The production is so bad, and I'm not a fan of Josh Katz as a vocalist, period. The riffage and the drums are taken from some of the most drab alternative rock and post-grunge of the 2000s. Combine that with some very migraine-inducing hooks and bridges and ad-libs and refrains, and pair that with some very cringy lyricism, very edgy lyricism, very, oh my lord, so cringy lyricism. I can't even imagine what this session would be like and how they weren't laughing their asses off. And you get an album that is begging you to be forgotten. It is down on its knees begging you to be forgotten. Yeah. I mean, Foals isn't really for me. I didn't really like the first part of this series, and so I didn't really like the second part of this series anymore. They're about equal for me, so there was no need to cover either one. I passed it up due to just the distorted, folksy, corny indie rock tunes on this record and the weird dismembered mixing on the vocals. Not to mention, I don't find much of the songwriting on either of these projects very worthwhile either. Definitely one of Dream Theater's better records in a while. Still, I didn't find much here to write home about or really make it a worthwhile review for me to talk about. When they bust into their very heavy progressive metal riffs, I do think that's where they fall flat most of the time. More melodic bits or low-key bits is where they really shine here, or even some of the more chuggier bits. Plus, is it me, or are the vocals mixed in a way that makes them sound ethereal and so far back in the mix, like so many decibels back in the mix, unsettling? Not even in like an unsettling, like, ooh, this is so cool, this is so different type of way, just a general uncomfortable level. I'm a fan of Dream Theater. I think they are an essential band for progressive metal. I just didn't really find this record to be anything that I really wanted to talk about at great length. No. You know, Supermarket's not really a good record. It was paired with, you know, a book, a comic. What was it? A book? Something like that. Logic made a book. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. It probably is going to be better. What do I have to say about it? Because I do think that Logic is definitely one of the more no. Yeah, never been too much of a fan of this band. Never really gotten behind their very run-of-the-mill combination of deathcore and just some general metalcore. And I think their riff writing has gotten even more dime a dozen and even more just overall stale and dry as they've progressed through their musical endeavor. Not to mention they find a way to turn up the machismo through the roof with each release. I don't know how they do that. Like when you write a chorus, like you did on that self-titled track, you lose your credibility to grace my ears. Or disgrace my ears, I guess. Tyr, the Faroe Islands folk metal band. Tyr, they've always been good at executing what they want to do. I'll give them this, they're excellent at incorporating folk elements into more of a just normal heavy metal sound, power metal sound, sometimes progressive metal sound, Viking metal sound. The only issue with that formula is heavy as it sounds and intriguing as it sounds, the band always bumps heads with just sounding the same on every record they do. This record isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination for what it's trying to do. It's just nothing different than what they have been doing, and it feels like the same album that Tyr has been writing for a while now, in my humble opinion. An album I listened to quite a bit on release, but didn't talk about because it just sounded like a band kind of developing a djenty sound. I enjoy a lot of heavier tracks like Gasoline and Bow Down. I like a lot of the more introspective tracks like Hurricane, and they have one of the better unclean vocalists in the game right now, I'll give them that. However, I think a lot of the deeper cuts on this record slog a little bit, drag a little bit, and that's my main gripe with the record. They still somewhat sound like a band that's trying to discover their sound, and that's perfectly fine. You know, unlike Anthony Fantano, I don't dislike the mix on this record, but that doesn't mean I like this record. Every time I listen to Devin Townsend, I feel like something's wrong with me. I get this sickening feeling that I'm messed up, that as a progressive metal fan, I should be liking this a lot more than I actually do. Plus, I'm someone that likes experimentation. This record is progressive metal mixed with classical music. That should be great. Why don't I like it? I just don't really like this album all that much. It has a lot of the qualities of the most long-winded prog metal that I don't really enjoy. I think Devin has released better music than what he did on Empath. I didn't really get a lot of the critical acclaim behind this record. I think that a lot of these songs blaze by in a flash, and there's not that much memorability. I don't know. This will be one of the best chamber pop and soft rock albums you hear this year, hands down. Don't let the hype distract you from checking out this album, because Natalie is such a good songwriter. She pulls at your heartstrings. She knows how to have that reminiscent quality to it, not to mention the vintage quality that she incorporates into her music. Coincidentally, it's not only one of the best chamber pop or soft rock albums you'll hear this year, I think it's one of the prettiest albums you'll hear this year. There's a reason so many people love this record so much this year. It's gentle, unbecoming, but packs so much passion and vigor in its own simplicity and old school vibe. Okay, potentially the final session. God, I want to get this video done. One of the biggest breakout stars, one of the most undisputed breakout stars of the year, Lizzo's popularity is completely deserved in my opinion. She has such confidence, she has such swagger, she has such bad bitch vibes to her. She has such undeniable charisma on the mic, not to mention her veneer of just this I don't care what you think about me, kiss my ass feel. She has some of the best courses of any pop star of the year. She's an artist that's not only talented for just one facet. She's a good songwriter, she has good production, she is very good at rapping, she's very good at singing, she's very good at playing the flute if you've seen some of her performances. Please go watch Lizzo play the flute, please. I love her personality, I love her confidence, I love the mythos of her, and this is an artist that I see a lot of longevity for if she can keep this trajectory. I really love her, and I really love this record. New record, English singer-songwriter Charli XCX. She really kills the whole PC music vibe. Her music is pop, but futuristic. I imagine this is what pop music is going to sound like in the year 2065. She has this odd way of sounding like she's from the distant future, but right here simultaneously. Like she's just existing in our atmosphere and we're just beholding her and her alienness. Good production isn't all this album has though. She really does bring on some good vocal features as well, such as Troye Sivan, as well as Sky Ferreira and Christine and the Queens, as well as Kim Petras is also on this record. They all add to the project in a whole way. I definitely think this is one of the best abstract pop albums of the year, but it's not that abstract, that's the thing. I just realized I sounded a little bit like Heath Ledger's Joker. They're just like, well, that's the thing. Much like that Lucidious record, this is a treat for anyone that is a fan of NF. This is also where I found out about Deion Reverie that I, talked about earlier. Witt Lowry is a great vocalist. Some of the hooks are a little bit weak, but still earwormy. I think he has some good production and beats in general. One of the issues I did have with that Lucidious record is the fact that I didn't think the beats really lived up to his hype, but Witt Lowry's beats do a lot of times. Not to mention, I am a huge fan of how he embraces his vocal cracking and his vocal inflections. You can really tell that he's just singing his brains out on these tracks. Really an amazing conscious hip-hop record that I think more people definitely should hear, especially if you're a fan of NF, but he has his own style, trust me. That's just a comparison, not something he is exactly like. So don't let that deter you. I remember the sudden burst of popularity this album had. I really do, just because on the auspice that this band was a really heavy band, metalcore, whatever you want to call them, that had a female vocalist doing growled vocals. Because evidently women just can't do that. Yes, women do vocals, heavy vocals. That's a thing. This is a heavy record in general. The brutality levels are extreme through the roof. But brutality isn't the only thing they have on this album. I think some of Tatiana's cleaner vocals are very haunting and eerie as well on this album. Not to mention her heavy vocals could go toe-to-toe with some of the best males in her genre, in her field, which is very impressive. And, I just really love her growls. Her growls are very fierce. Her screams are very fierce. This is just a great metalcore record. It's super down-tuned, super heavy, not the most memorable in terms of songwriting and riff writing, but what are you gonna do? if you like Immortal, don't miss out on this one, please. This is a project by Abath Doom Occulta, guitarist and vocalist of Immortal. I'm so sorry about that. This band is really tight. Really tight. Very frigid, very icy, but slower at times too. Melodic at times. Has some very melodic, low-key acoustic intros, such as on the very first track on this record. This isn't just some heavy-ass, blast beat galore, constantly balls-to-the-wall black metal album, and it also has some decent production, not too clean, but not too unbearably raw. Really enjoying this record. It's also surprisingly short, so if you want a little burst of a black metal album, if you like Immortal, it sounds quite a bit like Immortal, so check this out. Don't let it slip through the cracks through you. Anyways, what are some more albums that I missed that I can include in the second, wave? I already have a ton in mind, but go ahead and let me know. Be sure to share this video. Worked quite a bit on this one. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.